Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Simpson Sports Network. I'm your host, Connor Sutton, joined as always by Bryce Ritchie. Let's get right into it, Bryce. We have a jam-packed show today. Todd Franklin, new head men's basketball coach, will be on the show. But this is kind of a debate that you and I have had for a while. The greatest Red Hawk ever. And it's a debate that really there's not a sure winner because there's so many different sports, so many different things that go along with each sport and each athlete, some individual sports. So there's not a clear winner, but I've had this person in my mind really all year. Early in the year, I tweeted that I was going to release a story on it. I decided not to. But in my opinion, the greatest athlete ever to wear a Simpson Red Hawks uniform is Paris Helms. And I know you have some other people in mind, and I also have some as well. But she did such an unbelievable job. She was a part of the greatest 4-year run in Simpson history in any sport. Obviously, just finishing up here in 2017. Obviously didn't take home an NAIA national championship, but in 2015 she did take home an NCCAA national championship, one of 3 national championships in the history of Simpson University. So, and she also has unbelievable stats to back it up. 3 Cal-Pac titles. She was an NCCAA All-American, NAIA honorable mention All-American. Huge player for the team, a leader. Simpson was ranked as high as 6th, 4-time Cal-Pac Pitcher of the Year, 3-time Cal-Pac champion. They've only seen Cal-Pac championships in 2 sports, softball and women's cross country. Yeah. So despite softball and the Cal-Pac not being all that competitive, you could even say that it might be the most competitive because Simpson's been ranked as high as 6th in the nation, which is higher than we've seen any other sport in the last 4 years in the NAIA.
I think the competitiveness for the Cal-Pac is just it's not there. I disagree with you there. I think the reason they're ranked is because of their out-of-conference games. They were and probably still are an amazing team. They did just graduate quite a few seniors. Helms, Ma, Silvera,
Rodriguez.
Yeah, so a bunch. And I think it was their play outside of that really solidified their ranking. I mean, we saw them last year as high as, 13 or 14, I think. And then over the course of the offseason, Wayne signed some more talent, and they got bumped up even higher before the start of the season.
It was the preseason ranking that they were 6th, and they lost those early games to Corbin, who ended up 2nd in the nation, losing to Oklahoma City. So, but overall, an incredible career, a 2.2 ERA overall, 63-21. Really just an incredible career. Now, you can make the argument that she only plays one side of the ball, and you and I have talked about that. However, she was so dominant on that one side that I think it kind of overrides the other side of it. And we also did get to see her take some at-bats this year, which was awesome in her last game, which was great. Got a hit.
Overall, she's batting like 300 for her
right,
career,
exactly. So that's also very cool. But other student athlete, I mean, I think Paris is number 1 on my list.
Yeah.
But another one that we have to talk about, another student athlete that just graduated is Austin Lobsinger, wrestling. 3-time All-American, did an unbelievable job. Really, I wasn't a huge fan of wrestling, didn't know a whole lot about it. We got to host the NAIA West Region Championship and got to watch Austin. He was very fun to watch. The only problem
He's an incredible athlete.
Absolutely. The problem is with wrestling, it's not nearly as competitive as softball. And the main issue also is he's in a higher weight class. He's in the heavyweight class, and that's also not as many wrestlers are in that weight class. If he was the 125 or the 133, maybe he'd have a little bit of a better chance to try and maybe edge Paris. But however, Paris, in a little bit more of a competitive sport, softball's a little further along in the process in the NAIA than wrestling. Yeah. But Simpson, in the preseason rankings, was 20th in the nation. Now that they're solidified as a wrestling program, we might see them kind of climb here in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like you mentioned, comparing Lobsinger to Helms, it's tough because even though he had great personal accolades, we never saw them really do anything as a team.
Right.
And he never won a national title, which as an individual I would say is much harder than to do as a team.
Absolutely.
And I think it's fair to say Paris had the greatest run as a Red Hawk of all time. I mean, she had great stats in the Cal-Pac. Out of the Cal-Pac, not as great, but just so many personal accolades and team accolades. Even I think it really helped even just bring in more talent. They saw a key pitcher, a starting pitcher that was just going to be dominant, and other players want to come play behind her, and bat for her. Lobsinger is another great example of someone who's going to help bring in talent. They see a guy who can just squat and throw a 300-pound guy over his shoulder. I was like you, I really didn't know anything about wrestling, but he makes watching it really, really fun.
Absolutely. But as you said, I mean, Helms has had a lot of help. Madison Wright was second-team All-American this year. Kaylana Ma had a fantastic career. Really, she's got to be in the top 5, in my opinion, on this list as well. I mean, it's tough to come up with numbers because of how far back this goes, and advanced statistics haven't come along until pretty recently. However, Ma with a great career, but I just think Paris Helms, her leadership, and she also was a fantastic student, was one of the leaders in the FCA. So even things off the field, she was just a mentor for a lot of these student athletes, and just an incredible job, and had an unbelievable career.
Yeah, it's not something you see so prominent oftentimes in college sports, is someone that is able to do it on both ends as well as academically. And I think that's something that stands her out, is she really did focus. She was a student first and a leader, and then was able to just continue that on onto the softball field.
Well, did you have any others that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had several players go pro, playing overseas, a couple men's basketball players over a couple of years. A pitcher from a couple years back pitched for the men's baseball team, Jacob Sanchez, pitched in the World Baseball Classic for Mexico this year, and now he's in the A's system, pitching AA. So he was a fantastic athlete as well. Obviously, still continuing his career. And then if we go back even further, men's soccer, we had a guy transfer here to Chico State from here until a knee injury took him out. But he had offers to go D2 and play football. He offers to play basketball here, be starting point guard. So that was Gary Weaver. He's just one of those guys that just unbelievable athletic talent and unlimited potential, just sidelined by injury.
And we've seen, guys like Dalton Thacker had incredible years. Nicole Jones had incredible careers. Really a couple different guys on that team from 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Ian Corella, Shaquille Jones, Marcus Kirkland had a great career.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
But Paris Helms, a 4-year excellent career, and every year was
that's
good.
Rare. Yeah, that's rare.
And that is what I think that she has elevated herself above everyone else, is because of that. And you can have a great 2 years, but if you compare a great 2-year athlete to a great 4-year athlete, it's hard not to take the 4-year athlete, and that's Paris Helms. And we've seen a lot of great 2-year athletes, but when you come in as a freshman and you pitch well and you win CalPAC Pitcher of the Year as a freshman, as a sophomore, as a junior, and then also as a senior, I mean, that's just incredibly impressive. Also with the All-American Honorable Mention, and then the National Championship, 3-time CalPAC champions as well. So, I mean, it's just really hard to not go with Paris Helms in this scenario.
Yeah,
so,
like you said, there's things to take away from it. It's tough to compare sports, but there's no taking away from what she accomplished. She was a fantastic athlete, had a great run, and she will definitely be missed within the program.
Well, Todd Franklin will be joining us in just a moment. We'll be right back here on Simpson Sports Network. Welcome back to Simpson Sports Network. I'm here with new head men's basketball coach Todd Franklin. Todd, really pleasure having you on the show. I'm very excited to see what is going to happen next for this men's basketball team under your leadership. Now that you have the job, obviously, when you found out, what was your initial reaction to getting the assistant AD head men's basketball coach job?
When Tom called me and said, you're the guy, I was at my house, and I just went outside and I just took a walk down the driveway. And it was just one of those surreal moments, because it's something I've thought about for a while, and have the opportunity to stay in home and Reading and be able to coach at the collegiate level was just a blessing. Honestly, I just took a walk and thanked the Lord and just spent some alone time and get my head right and wrapped around what was coming next.
So how many years have you been coaching?
I've been coaching 21 years at Liberty.
Wow. What is going to be the biggest adjustment for you between coaching high school and coaching college?
It's ironic because that question gets asked all the time, and I've actually asked friends of mine, and I've coached at the NBA level, the collegiate level, high school, and it's funny, a lot of high-level coaches would like to get back to high school because it's probably where maybe the purest form of teaching is still being taught. And you can develop kids and really see a lot of growth because they're so eager to learn at that age. So, basketball is basketball from the highest level to the smallest level is, can you dribble, can you pass, can you shoot, and can you defend?
Right.
And so that's probably the biggest adjustment is going to be game management and time management in terms of halves and timeouts and different stuff like that.
Well, I was just going to ask you that because on last week's show we talked about halves and quarters. The difference, is that going to affect your coaching style going from coaching quarters to now coaching halves, or do you think it's going to change anything at all?
Well, it does. It definitely changes things in terms of momentum and getting stops and when to call timeouts. I remember we were playing Duke University and I called a timeout just shortly after the 4-minute mark. And so the official looked at me like, "Are you nuts?"
Yeah.
And so I called a timeout. He had to call it. We went back in. The very next dead ball, boom, another timeout happened. So I learned right away at the collegiate level, you have to do more game management, time management in terms of not getting frustrated and calling timeout.
Right. So what has been your toughest obstacle when recruiting?
Probably just time-wise, coming in late. Some kids have already been signed, but the glass is always half full if you look at it. So actually, I found some kids that people thought were going to get signed early, and for some reason didn't make choices. And we've had no problem getting kids to commit to Simpson. And we have such a wonderful university here that once people get on campus, a lot of people want to come here.
So you think because you had to start later in the recruiting process that it handicapped you and your staff at all, or no?
No, I don't think so. I think, some personalities would look at it that way, but I looked at it as a benefit because now I'm able to get kids that thought they were going to go maybe a bigger program or another state, another location, and things fell through. There's always drop-down kids. There's always kids who planned on going somewhere else and something just didn't work out. There are so many kids in this country.
What did you see as the team's biggest need coming into this year, or did you know what the team's biggest need before taking the job?
Probably after meeting with the team, the biggest thing is culture. And, I know it's easy to point out, we need more rebounding, we need to get stops, but the culture and the belief in themselves. When I sat down with the team, I saw kids that maybe didn't believe in themselves yet the way they need to. And so that's probably our biggest hurdle, is creating the culture and the brand that we want people to know, as a fan base when they come to watch, but also opponents. When we come play Simpson, we've got to be able to do this because they do this very well.
Now that you kind of know who your recruits are, who guys are coming next year, how do you plan to manage the guys who you didn't recruit, who are returners? How does that process come for you?
That's a unique process, and I reached out to friends of mine at the collegiate level and said, "What do I do?" And most of them said, "Get rid of everybody." Well, that's not a possibility here at Simpson. We're here to help and nurture kids and move them along in their careers academically and athletically. So just a clean house wasn't the right thing to do. But making sure that we gel as a family and have buy-in, because we don't want two teams. We don't want last year's team and my recruits.
Right.
When they step back on campus, they're all my kids, and they're all going to be treated the same. And that's good and positive. That's good and negative. Yeah. So if they mess up, they're going to be treated the same. So we're one Simpson once we get back on campus.
Are you more of a system coach looking to players to fit your system, or are you more of a player coach, so I'm going to change my system depending on what players I have?
It's funny. The game has changed. That's a great question, because the game has changed all the time.
Right.
You don't see in the NBA, you don't see the traditional big anymore. So it used to be, okay, we're going to big, and then they brought the triangle offense in for the Bulls and the Lakers. And so that trend, well, now you've got the Warriors who have 5 guys that can shoot the three. So I think as a coach, you've got to be able to adapt to what you have, but also the trends in basketball. Mm-hmm. If we went out right now and got 4 7-footers, we wouldn't be successful. I mean, we wouldn't be able to trap. We wouldn't be able to play a speed game. So it's adapting to what you have, but also the way the trends of the game are.
Very interesting. How has the community here in Reading reacted to you getting this new head coach job? I mean, I know you're kind of a little bit of a local celebrity. People know you here. How has the community reacted?
It's been fantastic. I'm honestly just going around town and meeting with businesses, and I think they're so excited to be part of something. And not that the Simpson coaches in the past didn't try to do that, but maybe that bridge is something that they never completed. And so having coached here for 21 years, played here, lived here, have businesses here, I think we're going to see a huge increase in support, not only financially, but in terms of putting seats and people in the seats. And I'm so excited for our first home game.
What ideas do you plan to put into place on the non-basketball side? I know we talked about it a little bit. You've been revamping the locker room. Locker room looks great. Slowly, trying to get that figured out. But what other plans do you have for the non-basketball side of things for your program?
Well, that's probably the biggest side of basketball is the non-basketball.
Right.
On the court, it's 40 minutes, but off the court is a lifetime. And we have to build those relationships. There's people in Simpson or in Reading that didn't know Simpson was a 4-year university. Is it connected to Shasta? I mean, there's so much confusion out there. So our players in this year are going to be in reading programs, they're going to be mentor programs. We'll be doing camps at the local schools, free camps at the Martin Luther King Court on the weekends. Really dive in and just learn to serve. And by serving others, it's amazing what happens with your own heart.
Wow, that sounds awesome. What expectations do you guys have for the upcoming season? Because only 6 wins last year overall. You're taking over the reins, new head coach, new players. What do you see as realistic expectations for you guys this next season?
Well, we're going to improve every day. And that's one thing our players are going to understand as a motto is we have to get better every single day, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's in practice, whether it's in the games. And when you work on those things, you begin to win more games. And so obviously, I think they were 5-22 last year, 6-22. obviously we want to win games. The school hired me not only to help mold young lives, but to win. And win with the right kids that have high character kids. So, right. But the fans, when they come see, they're going to see a different energy level. And I don't mean that disrespect to those previous staff, but the kids that we're recruiting and the kids that we saved, they're going to have a new buy-in. And it's going to be their program. And I think the excitement itself is going to transcend onto the floor.
What recruits and new players can we look forward to seeing this next year?
Well, probably the biggest name that we've signed so far is Jericho Avery.
Right.
Anytime you lead California in rebounding, you're fourth in the nation or tied fourth in the nation rebounding, this kid loves to rebound. He's a Dennis Rodman type player who literally helps and saves our shooters. We're going to be able to shoot quicker than what maybe we've shot in the past. We'll probably be able to shoot more threes, more of a warrior style where we can catch and shoot on the break even because you got a guy like Jericho. And he plays so above the rim. I mean, Reading is about to see dunks that they haven't seen before. And Brandon Moss coming from Modesto, when he plays at a high level, he plays way above the rim. We brought in some new shooters. We brought in a lot of speed with Aaron Berry. Spencer is a great shooter, but also, Thomas and kids that have played here before are going to have a huge role as well. That
was kind of going to be one of my next question, is talking about some of the returners, and what returners are you excited to see come back and kind of develop under you a little bit more?
Well, Josh Brackey obviously is the name that everybody knows.
Right.
He's first team all-conference last 2 years. And Josh has been unbelievable.
Right.
To sit down with and say, Coach, you have my last year of basketball at Simpson. That's a huge responsibility we have to him. And one thing I promised him is we're going to push you and we're going to try to out-recruit you. That way he's spending the summer going, his job is not secure right now. He has to be working in the gym, and he is. We talk all the time, we text, and he's excited. Every time we sign a recruit, he's the first one who calls, says, hey, Coach, I saw you just signed so-and-so. Congratulations, I'm so excited.
What other returners, besides Josh Brackey, are you guys planning on, building their skill level and really hope to see them have good years this next year?
Well, it was fun that first week we had because we had one open week where we could come in and work out with the guys, and I was really impressed with what I saw. When you see Jalen Cooper and his athleticism, finding a way to harness that athleticism, maybe at the 2. I know Jalen really wants to be a 1, but probably a more natural 2 as a slasher and a scorer. And then Ron, those 2 are freak athletes. And so we got to find a way to use their athleticism to our benefit, not getting out of position defensively because they're so quick. But then the shooters and Thomas. Thomas is a great spot-up shooter. Obviously, we need to get him to be on balance a little bit more, maybe have 1 or 2 dribble moves that are patent moves for him. But there's some really solid players there, and when those mesh, and there's other ones, obviously I can't list every player, but there's some local players that are coming on strong, and of course we're already recruiting for the following season to fill in our holes.
So when do you begin that recruitment season for next year?
I'm looking at sophomores in high school right now.
Awesome. Okay.
Because of my relationships throughout California, I'm now getting phone calls and videos sent to me almost daily. Hey, would you take a look at this kid? Because Simpson basketball is on the rise. As soon as we signed Jericho and Brandon and the 3 kids from Los Positos, everyone's kind of taking notice. Why are these kids going there? And it's not just me. It's the campus. It's the culture we're creating. And it's a tremendous university.
One thing I do have to talk to you about, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit, is the fact that you are a Laker fan. Now, I'm a big Kings fan, and I've always, not really liked the Lakers. So how are you going to have to change that a little bit? Are we going to see a change in that at all? Or are you just going to know you're a Laker guy forever? Or why are you a Laker fan? Give me that first.
I'll tell you the story. I was adopted when I was young.
Okay.
And my dad adopted my parents, who I call my real parents. They adopted 3 of us. And my dad sat us down and said, all right, we're going to be Laker, Raider, and Yankee fans, so there's no fighting in the house. And all of my brothers, we've stayed true to that. So I'm never going to change. Now, I will tell you, my daughter is a diehard Warrior fan.
Oh, no.
And so it's been pretty humbling the last 3 years, watching my Lakers do what happened to them. But I'm always going to stay loyal. But I also enjoy good basketball. And if I had to watch any NBA game right now, it's probably the Warriors and the Spurs. Kings, maybe they'll get there.
Let's be honest. They're not. They're a couple steps away.
People like watching who the Kings are playing.
That's a good point. Hey,
watch the Kings
that's right. You don't go to the Kings games to watch the Kings. You go to watch. Hey, LeBron's in town or Steph Curry's in town.
Yeah.
Well, Todd, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and really looking forward to see what you do next season.
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome back. Just got done with the interview with Todd Franklin, a Really interesting guy. He played at Simpson back in the days, had an incredible coaching career, 21 years at Liberty, and now he comes to Simpson. And I asked him about the difference between coaching college and high school, and he kind of broke it down, and it was pretty interesting. He had a couple answers that I was pretty much floored by, the way he wants to address his team to the community and really try to open those doors for his team and really building a culture, which we haven't kind of seen here. And a lot of really encouraging things that he said in that interview. Yeah,
I think it's been a while since just any Simpson athletic team has been a focus or a center in the community. I mean, there were times back in the late 90s and early 2000s where the gym would be absolutely packed. Like there was standing room only, and it wasn't just students. Students took up probably 40-50% of the bleachers, and they were rowdy. But you had people coming in from the community because it was something to do, and I think that both those fan bases kind of drifted away. So it's great to see a coach really focusing in on that. And I think Todd's has a really good chance to be the one to do it just because of his ties in the community. He's excellent speaker. He's very friendly, very personable, and. So it's easy for him to communicate and relate with people.
He kind of reminds me of John Calipari, the way he reacts, and I think the way he can recruit, because John Calipari is probably one of the greatest recruiters of all time.
Yeah.
And he kind of reminds me of that when he talks to you, because when he looks you in the eye, and I've had this experience with him too, he makes you feel like you're the only guy that he wants to talk to right now.
Yeah.
And that's rare from a player's point of view to see that and see someone who's going to not only take care of you as a basketball player, but take care of you as a person and as a student athlete.
Yeah.
So that's what's very encouraging.
Yeah, I think that's just a credit to his success as a recruiter too. That's going to be one of his strengths that he really relies on. Wayne Stower's another great coach, awesome recruiter, same kind of thing. The way he talks to his girls, you watch him and his interactions with the girls, he's just right here with them. Nothing else is going on. Doesn't matter if they're down 4, 2 outs, bottom of the ninth, bottom of the seventh, whatever it is. Todd has that ability, and I think we've already seen him key in on that with some of the recruits he's brought in.
Yeah. And it's encouraging because Todd isn't the only new coach who's coming in looking to make a difference. Holly Peebles is coming in. She's probably one of the best women's cross-country runners of all time, up there with Jackie Van Scooten. Kevin Quinn, who's been around the game of golf. He's the new head men and women's golf coach.
Yeah.
And really excited to see what he can do. Just talking to him, he just loves to be out on the course and spend time with the guys, and seems like a lot of the golfers really enjoyed having him this last season. And we saw Connor Estrada finish with an all-conference performance and a couple good signings on the men's and the women's side. I talked to him actually a while ago and asked him if it's tough to find women's golfers, and he says actually in California there's a lot more than you would normally think. So that's interesting because golf is kind of a little bit of a dying sport right now. We just had the U.S. Open last weekend with the ratings down. Obviously ever since Tiger's kind of been on the decline, we've kind of seen the ratings die, and it's kind of been that way with the whole game of golf. So he's confident, and he seems like he has this program going in the right direction. And then of course Alex Matthias, who had a great year with the men's soccer team. Women's soccer team didn't have the best year, however, they won their first conference game in 4 years. So
improvements all around.
Right, absolutely. And I think athletic director Tom Galbraith is enjoying seeing those improvements and hoping to see more here soon, to where we can have more conference championships in the CalPAC and even have maybe possibilities for some NAIA championships.
Yeah.
Because that's really where the goals are at here. That's where Simpson University Athletics wants to be.
Yeah, and I think something that Tom Galbraith has done a really good job on is keying on people who have great experience. I mean, Peoples was a 2-time CalPAC champion with the team here. And so she's got a great base already to start from and just expand that program. And Quinn, I mean, he worked on the PGA Tour for a while. So I think if I were to come in and see a guy who worked at that level and just know the knowledge and experience that comes with that I would be excited to play for him. And you're right, his passion is contagious. I think the golfers on the squad are really keying into that. And, Todd Franklin's another one of those coaches. He's got incredible experience and incredible knowledge. And I think that's going to, like you said, it's going to translate into success, not just both on and off the competitive stage, but out in the community as well, which is exciting for Simpson as a whole. It's something that the entire school can get rallied behind.
Right. And with all these new coaches, a lot of these sports are kind of on the incline. They're on the rise. And that's one thing that we haven't seen It really, from 3 years ago, before, we did not really see that. It seemed like everybody was kind of plateauing, but we've seen, ever since Tom Galbraith has come in, other than softball, we've seen pretty much every team rise. But even softball's had...
Yeah, they made it to the NCAA tournament. I mean, it's...
So, I mean, really,
the NAIA tournament.
Every team is doing something to improve. Baseball with a 14-win improvement this year. Greg Cattery brought in some great recruits. Cody Coggins, Derek Kuhn, Bertotti, Latrell Harris in center had a great year.
Yeah.
Michael Carlos at short.
Tough to see those guys go after 1 year.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Rough.
But talking to Greg Cattery, he seems like he's got a lot of guys ready to come in and produce this next year. And it just seems like they're a lot deeper this last year than they've ever been. Obviously, the Calpac was not as competitive as the Cascade, but the Cascade had a down year this year in baseball.
Yeah.
So the Calpac is really becoming competitive and almost equaling the Cascade in competitiveness level. And part of that is because Antelope Valley, Benedictine, and Simpson are really the top teams in Antelope Valley, as well as what was the other team I was thinking of? Benedictine,
Embry-Riddle.
Embry-Riddle, thank you. Yeah, and so those teams obviously having good years, but Simpson was right there. A couple close losses on the road to Benedictine, 1-run losses. So if they can tie down the end of that bullpen, they get 3 or 4 more wins in conference and have a chance to take home a Calpac championship.
Yeah, and I think the key here for all of that is snowballing. We see you bring in a few players and it's just going to snowball in a few more. Oh, you got him? Yeah, I'll come play for you. Absolutely. Oh, you got him? I'll come play for you. And we're seeing it on a broader scheme too. Just the level of competition is growing within the Calpac as a whole.
Yeah.
And something you and I have talked about before. It seems that these NAIA is even getting close to catching D2s.
Yeah, they are. Well, and even the Calpac teams are starting to become more respected in the NAIA because 2 to 3 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of respect. I mean, this year...
Well, teams were getting blown out.
Right. When they would go to NAIA championships, they'd get blown out. Simpson softball's done a great job. Had to take on the top team in the nation this year, Oklahoma City, who lost 1 game all season. And played them competitively. We lost 4-1, or 4-2, excuse me. But, I mean, overall, there's a very competitive team, and in general, the whole Calpac is doing a much better job of being competitive when they get to the national level.
Oh, yeah. And again, I think it's just everyone is elevating each other. Iron sharpens iron. We see one team step up, and we don't see other teams fall out. And what's nice this time around is teams aren't leaving. I think it's because the competition it's been solidified. Previously, we've seen teams like schools like Dominican and Holy Names and William Jessup move on to other conferences just because the level of play wasn't there and the level of recognition wasn't there. But since we've seen that get elevated, teams are willing to stay in. I think teams like Antelope Valley and Embry-Riddle and Benedictine, because the Calpac is spreading out, we're seeing a bigger recruiting pool as well. So that allows for better competition.
Absolutely. And not only that, women's basketball has won their most games since they've won in 2002. Obviously lost in the semifinals.
Disappointing loss.
In a heartbreaker to Benedictine. But they, again, had a very competitive year. They beat Oregon Tech twice. They beat them 3 consecutive times. Yeah. And that's a Cascade team that went to the national tournament and has been
very consistent.
And they've been a consistent team. Yeah. And Simpson is kind of moving up to where they are, a top team. However, they did just lose a big senior class, Esther Wofford, Whitney Rodriguez, Amani Joseph. And, last time Derek Pringle lost stars like that, he had a tough year. So we'll see what happens this year. He's very confident, though, in the players he has coming in. Fallon Green will be in her senior year. Yeah. It's a team that I probably covered more than any other team on the campus last year, so I know them relatively well. But in general, I think that with Madison Cox coming back, you and I are excited about that.
Very excited. She's so fun to watch.
Yeah, and she works hard, and,
she does.
And this team just seems like they are ready. The defense has looked a lot better, especially late in the season, and I think they can build off that into this next season.
Yeah, Derek Pringle's really finding his groove recruiting-wise. He's, every player he recruits with a purpose. I'm going to get you for this. I'm going to get you for this. Roles, and rather than just getting numbers, he's been able to key in on, like you said, role players, and I think that's huge for him. And Madison Cox is one of those players. After losing Wofford and Rodriguez and Joseph, Madison's one of those players who can fill in a couple of those roles, especially that role Amani Joseph was holding. She's a very aggressive player on the boards and on the defensive end, so I'm excited to see her back on the floor.
It'll be interesting to see what volleyball can do this year, because talk about sports on the rise. Volleyball actually had a little bit of a dip this last year. Yeah. But however, they are positive. They're trying to stay positive, and really, Coach Kirsch, I think, kind of has his team in the right direction, and hopefully we'll have a good year this year in the CalPAC. Wrestling, the program is back for sure. Austin Lobsinger, 3-time All-American, Rod Forsyth, and Jock Muir are really recruiting like crazy, trying to get kids into this wrestling program, because last year they had a lot of holes, so when they would compete as a team, they would take a lot of brutal losses because they would take forfeit losses.
Yeah, it really didn't just show how competitive they were, because their wrestlers that were there were competitive, but they were losing so many points to forfeits.
Vicente Hernandez was another one of them, Mason Salceda. So, and golf also more competitive. We saw Alex Dixon and Kyle Head one shot a hole-in-one and a albatross in like a 15-20 minute period in the CalPAC Championship. So that hasn't been done before in Simpson history. So that was awesome. Cross country, although last year struggling to get runners, this year with Kevin Alcosiba and Martin Olson, and for the women's Marissa Company. I mean, they have encouraging pieces that they have that they can build off of. And you know, all these teams are slowly starting to rise, and now they're going to start playing off of one each other, because one team rises, okay, now I got to match that team. And it's like getting a new coworker. Someone's doing well, oh, I got to work harder so I can be with that person or as good as them.
That's exactly right, and I think it goes back to a great job Tom Galbraith has done bringing in coaches, because that's all just translating. That's rolling downhill. Bringing in coaches that are passionate, have experience, and are able to, you know, ignite just the program itself to where people on the outside are excited about coming in. And I think that's just going to help the athletic department as a whole.
And it's pretty encouraging. I mean, we're doing things like having the new weight room, having this show. We just see things kind of here in the Simpson athletic department just slowly start to build up and do better. Have a couple of other more encouraging announcements coming soon. But realistically, when we talk about the school as a general and the athletic department as a general, it's a really encouraging sight to watch each program kind of build slowly and surely.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Well, next week we'll have Derek Pringle on the show. He'll be our guest. We'll talk about old versus new. We'll get into that little Jordan, Michael, LeBron action, kind of get into depth. He's got a different opinion than I do on that, so that'll be a lot of fun. But we thank you guys for joining us. This has been episode 1 of Simpson Sports Network, and we hope to see you guys next week.